authority supposed to go away from us, right?
Yes, the rest of us are on the website, you should too.
I jetted out of here last time, I'm sorry. I didn't
Should I ask you that? Yeah, we can figure it out later.
It's not like.
Well, are you the runner? Are you the one that plays with the running? Do you run?
I do run, yeah.
No, just
You see me running or something?
Yeah.
Should stocking.
Done your plates or you got a sticker or something?
Oh yeah, the 13.1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran a half marathon last spring, and so I got that. Yeah, sticker. So that's me. Yeah, thanks.
Let's just say that I walk faster than Jimmy runs.
You know that 13.1 wasn't my car, it wasn't race car, it was the champs or Keith, so appreciate that.
Yeah, I've only been running for about a year and a half, so I just kind of got into it. Yeah, so I can see
Aurora Housing Authority meeting is called to order for January 28th, 2015. Roll call, please.
Henry Champion,
Present.
Melanie Windley,
Present.
Ray Cruz,
Here.
Scott Boris,
I haven't heard from Commissioner Boris, so I believe he'll be here.
Dave Richard,
Here.
Bill Powell,
Commissioner Powell is at our training at the FADA training down in Florida, so he's enjoying the warm weather right now.
Training is good.
Approval of the minutes of regular meeting of November 19th, 2014.
It's on the top.
Can I get a second?
Yeah, second.
Roll call?
Henry Champion,
Yay.
Melanie Windley,
Yeah.
Ray Cruz,
Yes.
Scott Boris, Dave Richard,
Yes.
No public comments, I assume. Any good with the financial reports you did?
You are, sir, how are you?
Couple questions on those. When we get to where I'm
Sure. For the month of December, the Housing Authority had a $303,000 net loss, and we are now operating at a $482,000 net loss year to date. The reason for that net loss is the same reason that we had in June. HUD shortchanged us about $285,000 on our Section 8 funds. This has just been their practice for this fiscal year. They've been kind of taking housing authorities that have excess funds and doing what's called HUD-held reserves. So it's still, we've discussed this before, it's still our dollars, but they're held basically in HUD's bank accounts. We are to request the dollars from HUD. At this point here, we were kind of making progress in decreasing that loss year to date. If you look back at the November financials, we had done another probably about $40,000 in profit. So we had started to decrease that loss that we had from back in June. With this, I mean, we're probably not going to be able to close the year out in a positive. We will continue our efforts to kind of decrease costs, just to, you know, kind of be more prepared for this in the future. But the reality at this point is that we will likely finish the year at a loss for the fiscal year.
So is that good or bad?
Well, it's never good to have a loss. I'm not a fan of operating at a loss under any circumstances. The reality is the money is still technically there. You know, we still have $717,000 in reserves on top of the $1 million we keep in investments and the $600-some-odd thousand that we keep in our operating bank accounts. So cash-wise, we have plenty of cash. We have plenty of access to cash. We're not in a cash crunch in any way, shape, or form. The concern is that HUD has made it their policy to take back reserve funds, which makes it very difficult for us to kind of plan for our Section 8 program. Normally, under these circumstances, we would cut back, just as we did the first year I was here, when we were experiencing a similar situation. We cut back the program activities in order to live within our means. We got to a point where we were living within our means, and then we see more cutbacks. I don't think it's really practical for us to cut back much further. Obviously, we're getting about $600,000 a month from HUD. We need to spend almost exactly $600,000 a month on the Section 8 side. We want to make sure we're using every dollar we get now, because if we start using less, on one hand, yes, it is very fiscally responsible and conservative, but at the same time, it forces us to help fewer families. So it's important that I think we manage the dollars that are coming in very well to ensure that we keep helping the same number of families that we have been.
So they're taking money back that we're not using, correct?
Yes, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So one of the things I think I emailed you, or I sent you a note today. One of the things that I'd kind of like to see, and there was two forms of that, just so all the other commissioners know. One of the things that it's not up. It was in the other office, said is we really need to teach people how to fish is kind of the bottom line. So can we use any of this money to have programs to help people from HUD, so we can actually spend some? So first of all, what are we doing to teach people how to fish as an organization? Better jobs, better training, workforce development, whatever it is. What are we doing now is my first question. And the second question is instead of them taking money back, if we can spend that money and use it here to improve our residents' ability to, get out of the system, that just makes some sense to me. And I know that does take time, but
the challenge, not necessarily the challenge, the situation is one, yes, absolutely. And we since I had your email this morning, I talked with Maria a little bit earlier. By the beginning of the fiscal year, by April 1st, we want to have at least the framework of a plan by which we can start those very activities. The other side of that coin, the reason HUD's taking money back from our housing authority, and I had some conversations with some other executive directors and CFOs at other agencies, the reason that we're being, what almost feels like being targeted for these cutbacks, is because historically we've done very well financially. We've taken money, we've not spent it all, we've set it aside for a rainy day, and HUD is almost penalizing us for that. It's not necessarily HUD's fault. I mean, they're losing money just as much as we are, so they're trying to balance it by cutting back the housing authorities that have reserves. It's not just us. Pittsburgh saw a similar decline in June. It's just because we were at that time, we sit on a large reserve balance. Their goal is to cut that down to basically 1 month's worth of reserves. So that's HUD's mandate, is that they're going to cut us back until our Section 8 program is down to 1 month's reserve. That's
Which is what?
about $600,000, about $650,000.
And that's why I asked the question, is that good or bad? Because in business, as Scott knows, because he's a business owner, and Dave knows, he's a business owner, a loss is bad.
Right.
But in government, it doesn't sound like that's always the case.
It's kind of backwards, because you're penalizing a housing authority for having done good things with the money. We didn't spend it all. We set it aside so that we can do other things with it. And yet here we are, instead of getting more money for being fiscally responsible, we're getting less.
Right.
It's an unfortunate byproduct of the way government works. Those who spend the money get the money. So in one sense, we do want to make sure that we're going to spend and find a use for every dollar that we get going forward, so that we aren't living in a situation where we're setting aside so much money that HUD sees us as a target for taking money away. However, that's a very, very fine line to walk, because you don't want to get into a situation where you're spending money, a loss happens that you don't have it there to cover. But that'll be part of the budget presentation that we do in the next couple months, where we really talk about that line. Commissioner Richard, I know you had some questions.
What is the total amount that they've taken from the HAP funds this year?
$717,000.
Okay. Oh, I thought that's what we had left in the funds.
No, we have.
Yeah. Okay. Alright, so when I look through the different, like the housing choice voucher, AMP1, AMP2, and central office, those are our 4 accounts, so to speak, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it looked like between the housing choice, AMP1 and AMP2, we're $1 million, a little over $1 million under budget.
Mm-hmm.
And then the central office is $500,000 under budget, so which makes up the difference. And so I guess my question is why is the central office so far ahead? And then it almost seems like it's kind of like it's making up for some of the deficiencies that we're seeing in our actual programming stuff.
The central I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, does that question make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The central office, and it's part of, and Chairman Champion made a good point. Earlier we were having a discussion about providing kind of a fuller training for the board as far as how the financials work, how everything is structured. The central office is all of your back office activities. So the internet is charged to the central office. The vehicles that the Section 8 program uses are charged to the central office. There are a lot of support activities that are charged to the central office. So the central office basically is a non-revenue generating program that feeds off of the revenues from the other programs.
Right, I guess what I meant was under budget, like as far as, because there are some costs that come from the central office, like a computer equipment. So we budgeted the year for $37,000 worth of computer equipment, but we only spent $2,000 on computer equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that hurting because there aren't new computers?
Mm-hmm.
So is that hurting productivity and staff and things like that? And, then again, it just seems like not spending the money there is making up for larger amounts under
I see what you're
budget
saying, yes.
that the other places are.
And that is some of the situation where you do have areas where we didn't spend the money we budgeted. We, for example, with the computers, and there may be a case to be made for the fact that we should get new computers. It's on our plan to do when you look at the strategic plan. We want top-notch technology and all those things. Some of them we haven't done. So, for example, we have some new laptops. We haven't gotten all the new laptops. We budgeted, I think, a lot of money for. You good? That's interrupting. No, I'm good.
Sorry.
We budgeted money in areas, I think another line, I know we always talk about the maintenance contracts, which gets made up on the capital side. So there are certainly areas where we're not necessarily spending all the money. Some of those decisions are just, we know there are losses that are coming, we need to find ways to address them. Others of it is just that we haven't really found a good use for the money. So because we budgeted in that line item, I can't say that, it didn't seem like a good idea to just go out and buy new computers because we put aside money for new computers. But there are certain situations where we probably need to repurpose that money and do just kind of a budget revision so that the money's getting used in the places that it should be.
There's a lot of that, Keith, because we thought we were gonna spend more here, and we actually had cost savings that we didn't have to spend as much.
Well, and that's part of it. Some of the things we go into, we obviously we budget and try to plan conservatively. So we do, and when we plan this out, it was around $600,000. We spent just barely over $3 million. So there are situations like that where that happens too. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, I guess it's the fact that the actual programming stuff, the housing choice, the AMP 1 and AMP 2 are so far over budget. So when we say that we're $482,000 down for the year, that is the case, but it's also the case that in those three programs we're $1 million over budget. And so, that seems like it's a larger problem than the 482 makes it seem like, because, there's one program that's doing well,
Right,
three
right.
that are.
I see what you're saying. So so you're looking at, because there are overages in other programs, they're being covered, so to speak, by areas where we didn't spend the money. I see what you're saying.
So I don't want us to just not be spending money on things that we need, because just to make the numbers look better
Right,
in
right.
the end. That's my concern.
And I think one of the things that, not that this is necessarily the answer to this particular issue, but one of the things that's kind of drives some of that is the way that monies are segregated in this agency. HUD gives us, for example, the public housing operating subsidy dollars. We can't spend that money on Section 8. And the money we get for the Section 8 program also can't be spent on public housing. So because of that separation, and the monies that the central office is allowed to allocate out, there has to be a very specific allocation for that. So some of that is driven by the fact that the programs can't intermingle money. That's I'm not saying that's the only thing, but that is one of the drivers of that. Is that?
Yeah, but each one of these programs should be able to stand on their own.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, the answer to that question, yes, absolutely. And that is, when we start looking at with the next budget, especially knowing that we're seeing a lot of funding cuts, each program is gonna have to entirely stand on its own. we can't really afford anymore to kind of have public housing support the central office or the central office support Section 8 or anything like that. Each program, you're right, needs to be standalone, and that's something we'll have to really, really address going forward.
Okay. So I guess bottom line, do you think that there is a larger problem than the 482 that we're under budget, or no? And
Well,
So I was gonna say, is like AMP 1 and AMP 2 are all the buildings that we run and own outside, so, and those show positive bottom lines,
mhm.
and then below budget, but positive
Mhm.
bottom lines.
Right.
And
So-
then the voucher that's where they pulled back all the funding, and then that's what's made that one so if you look, at AMP 1, like the bottom line, is budgeted to have a big bottom line of 669 year to date, but it's at 308,
hold on, let me get through.
so it's like page 8.
Yeah. Okay. AMP 1. Go ahead.
Okay, and then you go to AMP 2.
Well, wait. Say what you said again about AMP 1.
So is AMP 1 the larger units or this?
AMP 1 is the Maple Terrace Centennial House.
So those 2 units. Now part of this though is because does that number include all this office?
Well, see, that's the thing. The
allocated to it?
central office. So it basically breaks down this way. AMP 1 and AMP 2 make up LIPH, and that program has a $484,000 year-to-date net profit.
Right.
So our public housing program is extremely profitable. That does not include the portion of the admin office.
It's not as profitable as we budgeted for.
Exactly. We probably, like I said, I think we budgeted $660,000 year-to-date.
Yeah.
It is profitable. The Section 8 program is the one that's seen all the losses. So year-to-date, it has a $245,000 net loss. Now, that's, if you take into account the cutbacks that we've had, we could be a lot worse. We've actually done pretty good given the situation of the money that's been taken. But that program's operating at a loss. The central office will always operate at a loss because there's no revenue to that program. That's all expense. So between the 3 programs combined, that's how we get to the $482,000 net loss. So to get back to the kind of what you're saying, our public housing program is basically supporting the rest of the agency. The problem that we have again is that we can't move the money between the 2 as freely as we
Are those
would like.
so? What the reserve funds on the public housing side versus?
So we have roughly $1 million in our investment accounts. The majority of that at this point is public housing dollars. Because every year we're putting in $200,000-$300,000 in public housing money in addition to that. Where on the Section 8 side, they're starting to draw down their reserves. I think the last number I saw was $78,000 in reserves plus the HUD money that's set aside for that program. So they've effectively taken our Section 8 reserves and moved them to a HUD bank account. So that program is where you're seeing every year you're seeing those losses because HUD's cutting that funding.
And that's where you said that they're going to drive that reserve down to basically 1 month's
Right.
reserve.
Right. And they've done that and again,
That's basically where we're at right now.
Right, exactly. That's where pretty much we are now. We'll probably at some point in time in fiscal 2016 see one more reduction to bring that number down to about 650. So what they'll do, they won't fund us at all. Normally they're taking the money and set it in reserves. They just won't give us the money that month. And that'll balance out. That'll get us to 1 month. And they'll probably at that point leave us be.
And I guess as we get into that situation, then like right now you say to just kind of manage this down to that point. Then at some point it's gonna, if it really does get down to where you have 1 month's reserve, that point when they start to tinker around with it, then all of a sudden
it becomes a much more immediate move. I mean, we've normally kind of looked at things and said, okay, they're going to cut us here, we'll balance it out over a couple months. So we haven't necessarily cut back vouchers or anything like that. When we get to the point where we're at 1 month funding, if they cut us, we have to act accordingly. We have to be very flexible in that situation because we don't have the flexibility now to afford, a couple months of vouchers that we're not being funded for. So I think right now the funding supports about, I think we're at 798 some odd vouchers. That's about the amount of vouchers that we can support at the funding that we're getting. And it's going to be important for us to monitor that funding to make sure that we balance the number of vouchers correctly with the dollars that are coming in. We'll get through it. It'll be okay, I promise. If not, I mean, you guys will just get rid of me, so it's okay.
Oh, that's great.
Are there any questions on the list of bills?
I just had one.
Yes, sir.
It had to do with Verizon.
Mhm.
Is that for mobile phones, or internet,
It's the mobile phones. The bill, what happened, we got a whole lot of new equipment all at one time, and they do charge you for each piece of equipment. So all the maintenance guys are getting upgraded phones and things. On top of that, we ended up missing a bill, so that's 2 months on there instead of one. That's why it jumped. 'Cause it's normally like $800 or $900. I think now it's like $1,900.
okay.
Anything else?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, sir.
So there's something on here from E.J. Welch Company,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a, I don't know, cover base glue. I don't know why I had a question about that, but I did, I have it marked down, so, I mean, is that something that we purchased, that like a maintenance thing, or
Mhm.
what?
Oh, sorry. It's a maintenance supply with Jimmy.
Yeah, it's what we use, it's a glue that we use to run down a rubber base.
For what?
For like the rubber base, we don't use wood base in a lot of our units, you actually use rubber base, so we have to glue it instead of nailing it.
Thanks, sorry, yeah, I don't know why I had a question.
You're a glue fanatic.
Yeah.
We'll get you some. Don't worry.
I said
And if
fanatic.
you have any leftovers,
Are there any other questions? There's no, Maria?
At the top there, you'll see the numbers for our public housing waiting list, as well as those already processed and are ready to house full. So they're just waiting for a unit to become available. You'll see the notices that were served, as well as the attorney referrals. We only had 2 referrals last month, and that was for rent-related 14-day notices. We did have 2 evictions, one at Centennial House and one at Eastwood. And you will also see towards the middle there the numbers for the project-based voucher waiting list, as well as the Section 8 waiting list. Our waiting list for the public housing program will be opening its waiting list on February 3rd for 1, 4, and 5 bedrooms, and that'll remain open until further notice. The application will be available on our website, so anyone will be able to download, and they can get it to us in person, mail it in, fax it in, whichever way they see fit. And then
Maria, just
Yes.
why on the project-based vouchers, why are there so many one-bedroom? What's the,
those are just applications that came in, and we can't turn them away. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Gregory, we didn't wanna turn them away either in case of future, negotiations with that project-based voucher program, that we may be able to do 1 bedroom, so we can't turn them away from applying.
What essentially happened, and it's not wholeheartedly unexpected, because it's a senior, we kind of focused on elderly disabled. A lot of those households are single individual households. So when we opened up the waiting list, that's what we just got a lot of those applications. We're probably gonna, and we've been talking to Brenshaw about how to deal with that. So they've been, and we're gonna go into discussions about a second phase. 1 bedroom is gonna have to be on the table because that's obviously where the need is. So
yeah,
we will, that's one of the things that the waiting list does allow us to do is kind of plan for the future. So that has to be part of that discussion going forward.
For a senior, could 2 people choose to live in a 2-bedroom?
Mm-hmm. There's a few complexities to that. I mean, it's not as simple as just 2 individuals getting together and saying, I want to live in an apartment, but there are a few ways that could be worked out.
So you're talking about Brenshaw having scattered sites with 1 bedrooms?
Mm-hmm. Or, for example,
Are there any houses with 1 bedrooms? Does that even
well, not
exist?
that kind of situation. They could do, say they did a 3-flat apartment complex kind of thing. It's still scattered because we're not going to have 40 people in one place, but we're doing, small duplexes or 4-unit, 4
So it'd be a
apartment.
one-bedroom, okay,
Yeah.
I get it, got
I mean, there's a way it can be done, either that or we'll have to look at just a different structure completely. I mean, they're the developer, I mean, I love them to death, but they're gonna have to do what we need done, so.
I mean, they could also take like a bigger house and make it 2 apartments,
Yeah.
kind of thing, okay, thank you.
Has he filled any of the houses that he is developing?
They have not gone to closing yet. We ran into a bit of a hiccup with HUD. We were all under the impression, because of the way the project is structured, that we weren't gonna have to do what's called a subsidy layering review. Basically, HUD takes your documentation, it's a packet probably about this thick, where you lay out all of your financing, how all the money's coming to you, where all the money's going, and then HUD goes through and reviews it. That process can take from 45 to 90 days. We got in a conversation with HUD back in about early November. They informed us that we were gonna have to go through that process. Before, with elderly-only properties, it wasn't really a requirement, it was just a suggestion. They required it, so we had to stop kind of moving forward, go back to that part. We haven't gotten an approval or denial from HUD on the SLR package yet. So once they, and I don't see any reason why they'll deny it, but we have to wait for them to approve that packet, because that holds our hand as far as the money. We can't give them any vouchers until HUD approves that package. Once they've done that, we expect to go to closing pretty quickly.
Also, it kind of violates our agreement with HUD that we signed a while back, does it not?
In a sense, well, not necessarily, because we did actively move forward, and we're still in the process of moving forward. HUD simply slowed us down a
Is
little.
there a deadline on that that we have to meet?
No.
Okay.
Did we lose any of the houses because we couldn't close?
No, they already purchased all the houses. The closing is for their lending to do the rehab work.
So they're just sitting there pretty much vacant.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's bad in the winter, isn't it, there?
Well, they have to pay to do the upkeep. So I mean, Brenshaw's required to do all the, just the typical, winterization kind of stuff that they have to do to maintain the units. We sat with the city a week or 2 ago, and they didn't have any complaints about any of the units. So I don't know that there are any problems. And Brenshaw, I mean, they have to. That's part of the process. They have to eat that cost. So.
Okay.
Sorry.
Other than what's at the bottom, just events that were going on at our different sites. Unless you guys have any other questions, that's it on my end.
Maria, do you have a lot of contact with the residents in all of these locations?
For the most part.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you kind of know who they are, what they need, what they don't need, those types of things, in terms of teaching residents how to fish?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course, I'm more familiar with the family sites because that's where I was located. I was the property manager there.
Mm-hmm.
As people come and go, either because they've been evicted or they move on or whatnot, I obviously don't know the newer residents,
Right.
but for the most part, especially the family sites, as I said, I know pretty well.
Okay.
Same thing with our senior sites. I get to know them here and there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Maria?
For the Housing Choice Voucher Program for December, we had 80 recertifications in progress. We completed 29 annual re-exams. We had 64 interim rent adjustments completed. We reissued 5 families vouchers that were moving, their lease had ended. We saw 6 poured-in families, issued those people vouchers, they moved into our jurisdiction. We transferred 3 families out to other housing authorities. We processed 18 lease-ups, which were port-in families and families moving within our jurisdiction. We had 13 initial move-in inspections, 53 annual inspections, 18 re-inspections, 1 special inspection, which was a 24-hour, 6 terminations, 16 families we absorbed into our program, and I don't have my total voucher on here, but it is $798, I believe, is the last count.
So just a few explanations.
Sure.
So when you say 6 terminations, 3
Yes.
absorbed, what's that mean?
3 absorbed, it means they were absorbed by other housing authorities.
Okay.
they move there and they have the option of billing us or absorbing them into their program, and they absorb them, so we lost those in our account.
Okay, and then one DAP, one
Yes.
voucher,
A voucher expired, the family was moving, and, they get so many days on that voucher, and it expired, so then they're done.
okay,
And then one family became self-sufficient, so they were getting zero assistance from us, so after 180 days, they go off, voluntarily go off the program, or
and then the
automatically
voucher
go
gets
off.
freed up.
Mhm.
We want more of those.
Yeah, that's, And- and then, there's one other category I was gonna get a definition, what process for rent adjustments, is that, can you just explain what happens there?
Anytime a family has a rent change, they're required to report that in writing to us within 10 days. And if it's over $100 or less per month in their income, we process an adjustment. So either decrease our half or increase it, depending on what the,
Do you know the total, in general, we absorb more than we port out?
yes, at this point we are, yes.
And about, like, what would that be over a year? Do you
Over a year, right now we've been absorbing because our voucher count was down a little bit and we were trying to keep it at that 800 mark. And so, as families come in, instead of us billing those other housing authorities, we would just absorb that family, just to get our number back up to where it should be. So, at this point, we've been absorbing more than we've been sending out.
So we have 798 vouchers that we're responsible for. Does that include the amount that come from other, like people that are living here but they're on a voucher from Colorado?
It depends if that housing authority is billing us. If they're billing us, then, that is not included in our count, that's their count. They're still responsible for that
Okay.
voucher.
Do you know how many of those there are?
I wanna say we have about 110 vouchers that, we're getting billed for. And again, that's approximate.
Are there any other questions for Sue?
Jimmy?
Yes, okay. As was mentioned before, towards the end of the year, we had a couple evictions, which are more of the family side, so they're a little more time consuming, along with, we did have some move outs also, so that's kind of where we've been spending most of our time. As far as, the guys have been really good as far as doing, as you can see, we've been keeping up on our emergencies and work orders in between the weather too, which, it really cuts into some time, but the guys use their time really well. We're still with the city started up again with city inspections and stuff, and it's been going very well. There's been several houses that they've checked and several units that, they have found no violations, so. We are actually, starting our actually doing, repairs and stuff, trying to get ahead for the upcoming years as far as, upcoming this year to, stay on top. We're starting earlier, which sometimes can be, we start in January, and if they don't come till June sometimes. So what we're trying to do right now is hit all the major stuff and then come back later on, kind of circle back on the ones that we know are more troublesome. Right before the holidays, Constitution House had a fire and stuff like that. Mr. Gregory sent out an email asking anybody to volunteer and stuff, and even though it was during working hours, several of the people stood after hours to help out, and it was basically, just, sometimes just holding hands, sometimes just, moving things and relocating. But, like, I've always emphasized that, what we do here is, very important stuff, but, the way we connect, and the guys do really well connecting with the residents and stuff like that, so even though they weren't familiar with the other residents, it just seemed to flow really well. So, there again, that's a tribute to them. We had, our lunch, tested at Maple Terrace, and I did attend, it's called called a landlord agent, which is held by property standards as far as, you know, what to look for when, before city inspections and stuff like that, so, but the city inspections are pretty reactive. I think we're ahead of schedule right now, so it's good.
How many units did that fire affect, Jimmy?
I'm not real sure about that.
Ballpark, 10, 2?
You know,
They had basically, I would say it was the equivalent to the fire we had about a year and a half ago over at Maple Terrace. Basically what happened, one unit caught on fire. They handled it within that unit, but when the fire department came, there was a flood that really caused more of the damages to why the people had to leave that building. So they had to relocate somewhere in the area of like 15 residents.
And where'd they go?
They found other affordable units for them to go to, different housing situations. I mean,
Within our,
No, because it's not our property. We are partnered with them on the voucher program.
right,
I just happen to be over there. I go over there from time to time just to talk about different issues we might be having. They asked if we knew if anybody could help, so that's when we sent out the email. Our guys, everybody, it wasn't, maintenance guys, office staff all volunteered to go over and help out. We didn't absorb any of their families at that time. They found their own other places for them to be.
so I know this is not our property, but it seems like we've had a couple fires here lately, that we're either associated or with. Is there something that we should be doing proactive so this stuff doesn't happen, or is it just freak accidents and?
Our fire was more kind of a freak accident. Their fire, from what I understand, an individual fell asleep with a cigarette and, lit the building or lit that apartment on fire. There's short of having a smoking ban, there isn't anything that can be done to prevent that. That's just one of those things. I guess it kind of happens, and that's kind of the risk you take. The fire itself was contained very well. It was as always, the water that seems to do more damage, than anything. So obviously, for us, we need just to be more mindful and help the residents be more educated on the things to do to prevent fires. I think that goes for us and for any other property manager as well.
Remind me, what was ours caused by?
It was a
Cooking.
stove issue. Yeah.
Somebody cooking, okay.
Are fire extinguishers? I'm sure there are, but there are fire extinguishers, like where in those?
they're in the hallways. I'm not exactly know how many feet, but the fire department checks, so we are up to code and stuff like that. Well, a lot of it is the way our apartments are. The doors stay shut. They usually stay contained in there, but naturally people panic and they open the door, and that's where it goes. So, like our last fires, I think maybe we only had like 1 or 2 units that really burned. The rest of it was water damage and just damage that the firemen came in and broke down doors and stuff like that. So
Does it make
the
sense?
smoke.
I'm sorry, Jimmy, go ahead.
And just the smoke and the soot, that was the major part of the damage and stuff like that.
Does it make sense that we have extinguishers in every unit?
We actually did that at one time, except then we gotta update them all the time, and lots of times they don't use them, and a lot of them don't know how to use them properly, And we got a lot of elderly sites where, some of them could actually probably hurt themselves, so,
Well, my thought, if we did some kind of training, to maybe so that the fire department doesn't have to get there and then we don't have the water damage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If there obviously we want to take steps to try and prevent that kind of thing. I think for us, for our insurance purposes, and I know that's like the least important thing here, but I can guarantee you if we go down that road, the insurance company is going to step in and say, listen, fine if you want to do that, but understand that this is going to impact your rates in this way. And then maybe there's a way that the insurance company can help us to provide this training in a manner that balances all those concerns.
Having more fire extinguishers will raise our rates?
Well, the risk of somebody being injured as a result of misuse of one. I don't think that the fire extinguishers is bad. I do think that any way that we can decrease that, we just want to balance the practical concerns with, obviously the health concerns that we have.
Are there any housing authorities that have gone smoke free?
Mm-hmm. It's the new thing in the industry, that and the RAP program. A lot of housing authorities are taking that approach where they're going smoke free. They're banning smoking in the building. Period. They've gone so far as to put little shacks or whatever outside. We at one point in time. No, that's what they call it. A little smoke shack. We put it outside. we at one point in time were in the middle of that discussion. I think it was when I got first started, so it was probably before 3 ago. I think.
I got
Reagan. Yeah, so I mean, we did discuss it for a while. There are two concerns that we kind of have had with it. One, do we want to start to impose these kinds of rules? Obviously, it's our property; we can do what we want with it. But as far as quality of life, do we want to tell people that we know what's best? We don't want you smoking in the apartment that you are paying rent for. That is a question. Do we want to go down that road of starting to impose? I mean, can we come back later and say, we want healthier people? Let's no more sugary drinks in our buildings. We can. It starts to dally in that world a little bit. The other side of it is a benefit for us. I mean, it makes the units easier to turn because the carpets or the walls, the smoke, you don't have to get that smell out to turn the unit. You lower the risk of fire damage, of smoke damage. So it's a balancing act of what do we as an agency want, how far do we want to go with that? And that's something like I said, we talked about it before and then we kind of went away from it. So it's something we can certainly bring back to the table and start to have those discussions about how or if we want to do something like that. It's like I said, it's not abnormal. There's plenty of case study where that has successfully been implemented. I came from an agency in Atlanta that had just completed that process. So it's not horrible or foreign to do. The one thing I will say here, because when you do that, because of there's some fair housing clause that requires you do put a smoking area on the property so the residents can access it.
The shack.
Right, the shack. You build the shack. The challenge for us here that they didn't have in Atlanta, it's warm in Atlanta all year long. The temperature very rarely goes below 40 there. It's a little tough to build a shack. We're gonna have to heat that shack if we're gonna build one because it's gonna be negative 20 outside. So I mean, there's just different complexities we have to work out. But
The U.S. government did it on Indian Trail.
okay, so yeah.
You put it out there, you want to smoke, let somebody else smoke. And I'm in favor of smoke free.
Okay, it definitely is something we
How
can.
much would that
discuss.
save us on our insurance?
You know what? We've never really looked at it, but there's certainly a savings to be had there, and it's money we could put into fire extinguishers. So see, balances out.
Yeah, or just add up all the smoke damage and the money that we spent in the last 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's another project for you to figure out, Keith. Write it
Always
down.
something. Always something.
Well, I mean, I think everybody knows that smoking's not good for you, but I don't wanna tell someone they can't smoke. But I think you're right in terms of the cost savings. When you gotta turn around a unit, you've gotta pretty much rip everything out. That cost us more. It's, unhealthier for the person, and, sugary drinks only puts my life at danger.
True,
It doesn't
smoking.
put your life at danger, your life at danger, anybody else's life at danger, where cigarettes, smoking in the units puts a lot of people at danger if, an accident happens, so,
Yeah, so not to mention secondhand smoke as well. So,
yeah.
like I said, there's plenty of case study for it to be done in the northern half of the country. It's not like this is a phenomenon only in warmer climates. I'm trying to think.
How do the residents feel about it?
I'll tell you now.
The ones that don't
They're
smoke.
gonna stick in their mouth.
It'll
Well, I
be.
mean, these are our clients, so we have to be
What
sensitive.
percentage smoke do you think? Just guess. I mean,
Big percentage.
Well, it's like over Maple Terrace, just.
There's
outside.
quite a few.
Yeah.
Again, it kinda depends.
50%?
Do we have smoking floors,
20%
non-smoking
or
floors? I mean,
80%?
No, we have nothing right now.
I'd say 50. 50's about a good number. Again, it kind of depends at what site you're talking about. If you're talking Centennial House, that's gonna, it's gonna be a huge difference. You're gonna have, I don't know, maybe 30%.
So what's your size of the?
But agency-wide, it's gotta be then like 40.
Yeah, I would say, 40% or so.
Oh, you put that to a motion.
At this point, I will get
You're
to
a
work.
troublemaker, ain't it?
it
I
was
will-
on fire
No.
in 2015.
I will make it a
We have a
point.
lot to talk about there.
I will make it a point to begin that discussion, gathering some information. I know the American Heart Association has some grants for that very thing. I think HUD has a few programs where they've helped to kind of ease that in versus us just saying, okay, as of this date. So we'll start to gather that information and we can kind of further that discussion.
Yeah, 'cause I thought, in travel, everything is about smoke free now.
Yeah,
So we're kind of behind the times.
And then with CVS pulling out cigarettes
Yeah,
from stores.
yeah.
And so on another part of that, it would be, okay, no smoking in the units, you know, if you go that route. And then a self-help to help quit.
Yeah.
Not just the shack to go smoke in. So that'll be the other side.
That's what we're gonna call it. We're
Right.
gonna call it the shack. You know.
Good idea.
Mercy has that.
Yeah,
Yes,
but,
that's
you know,
So it's a matter of, yeah, we'll need to pull partnerships, and there's gonna be like VNA, we partner with VNA, I'm sure they can help, craft some programming, some, quit smoking stuff too, so, I mean, like I say, it's a bigger project, I think sometimes it sounds like it is, but certainly, something we'll get to work on, it's nothing beyond us, so.
I mean, it's also quality of life for the non-smoker who may be right next to the smoker. You're better off to know this, Jimmy, can you smell it through the walls
yeah.
and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like when we turn around a unit, I mean, it's like we have to, actually kilt it and then put a primer on, then paint it because
Right.
sometimes it is thick and sometimes it even gets into the tile where, you know, we have to let it air out. Cause there's some of our residents been there for years and years and, you know, there's just one after another smoking, so.
Yeah, so how much extra money and time does
And
it
it's
take?
not just the walls, it's everything, cabinets,
Right.
light
Yeah,
fixtures.
you're
Yeah.
correct.
It's in there. I mean, once it's in there, it's a smell. It takes some time. I mean, a lot of times sometimes it's even, you know, looking at how much time it takes to air it out. It's even easier to just tear it down and put a new one up, and it's again costly. So again, that's definitely something we'll get started working on.
so could it be not like just across the board, all of AHA, like you were saying, like certain floors are smoke-free or certain sites?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all something that as a board we'll have. It's a policy matter at that point, and you guys will have to kind of determine for the agency what the policy is going to be, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Henry said check.
Are there any other questions for Jimmy?
Before we go into new business, I, asked, Executive Director if we could read the mission statement at this meeting.
You did, and I
Someone have?
did not bring it. I know I completely forgot. I apologize.
The old one I knew by heart, but I don't know.
We'll go with the one you know. We'll go to the one you know. You know what? It is. You know, we used to have it up, and we don't anymore.
It was in the old, that's what I was looking
Yes,
for.
it's the plaque. We left that. I apologize. That's my fault because you did tell me that, and I did not bring it today.
Okay, then.
I apologize. I will do that.
First mistake.
Get a new contract. I'm already messing up. See,
Was it in a frame or was it written?
it was in a frame. We had it framed, but it was at our old office. And
So we can bring it over?
yes, absolutely. Yeah, we'll just need to put it up on the wall somewhere.
Okay, new business?
We have the annual plan, resolution 15-01. Essentially, every year, the Housing Authority is required to submit to HUD a document that outlines all of the activities that we're gonna take throughout the fiscal year. Our document aligns directly with our strategic plan. It always has. Essentially, one of the requirements is that the board approve by resolution the annual plan, that we have a public hearing. All of that we've already done. The documents have been placed on the website and have been publicly placed for 3 months now. We did have 2 public hearings. David Kramer attended both of those. Nobody had any public comments to the plan or any issues with it. So now it comes to the board for a vote, and as soon as assuming the board approves in the resolution, we need Chairman Champion to sign off on the certification, and we'll send that off to HUD for approval. Are there any questions?
Where was that advertised at the public meetings?
The public meetings were advertised in the Beacon in the classified section, the legal section. That's where we've always publicized them. There was one in September, I think, and then one in I want to say October. And then all the documents of the plan have been on the AHA website under the public documents category since about late November.
Can I suggest that our newest board member make the first motion of the year, if she would like to?
Yes. I motion to pass the resolution 1501.
Second.
There's been moved and second to, move on resolution 1501. Roll call?
Henry Champion,
Yay.
Melanie Lindley,
Yes.
Cruz,
Yes.
Scott Boris,
Yes.
Dave Richard,
Yes.
It's been approved. Approval of the 2015 voting schedule.
This schedule doesn't require a vote. It's basically an informational kind of thing for the board. As long as you guys agree with these dates, then we move forward. We'll post them at all the sites. We'll post it on our website. It's the same as it has been, the fourth Wednesday of every month, with the exception of November, December. We've always done the third Wednesday of those 2 months due to holidays. So unless there are any questions?
So you already had this when I asked for it this morning.
Oh yeah.
I was like, man, he's good. I didn't know you already
I
had
gotta
it.
I gotta let you think I'm doing,
I didn't look at the last page of your report this weekend.
Roll call.
Henry Champion,
Yay.
Melanie Wimbley,
Yes.
Ray Cruz,
Yes.
Scott Boris,
Yes.
Dave Richard.
No.
Let it be noted.
Good to have you back. Good to have you back.
Make a joke about it, it's myself. Can I just have a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Let's try to let people know about those annual, you know what I mean? That it seems like, okay, we put it in the legal section of the newspaper, but, you know, I think we do, if there are people that want to know, I think we need to make more of an effort to let people know about that, and so that if people really do wanna come and know what's going on, they have an opportunity.
How do we do that?
Facebook page,
Do we have a Facebook page for?
Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Yeah.
Okay.
We do.
you know.
Should we have a
maybe-
center of influence list that we send it out to?
A lot of the groups do have that.
So all
chamber.
the aldermen, the chambers, the hospital CEOs,
We will
schools,
certainly do that.
school superintendents.
I just don't wanna hide.
Yeah, it's a good idea since I was gonna say since there's no media that exists in our town. I was gonna look at them when I insulted them, but if you come up with in addition to put it on the social media sites, if you come up with a list of 40 or 50 names, that would be a good thing to email the things out to.
We'll add that to the list of things.
Probably Rick Guzman knows who the player in towns are.
Oh, we'll do.
Rick
We'll just
would
send it to
be
Rick and let him
number
send it to
one,
everybody.
All the legislative
I got my
officials,
copy.
township supervisor, I mean, it's
Sustainable
easy to get all those names.
Yeah.
All the representatives, state and,
We'll
so.
get to work on
I tell you, that's a good boy too.
Even better, have that
that.
list.
That's the one I need.
That's the list we
That's the
need.
one I need. I don't need the other one.
Suppression list.
Any other business to come before this board?
Why was the lot so full at 4:30?
Employees,
Which part of the back half?
the whole
We're
thing.
working. We're turning things around over here. You know what we do.
I'm impressed.
You just show up on Lombardi time, tell us, right?
I do, but I was trying to make a
We
living.
need a motion.
So moved, adjourn.
So is I erased over there. Got 1 minute to go.
Scott seconded,
Scott
and
seconded.
then we all voted again.
We'll just agree that that's what happened, right?
It's just a given.
Happy New Year. Mom, come here, let me show you something. Okay, you go over there, you run for what, 10, 15 minutes?
We only run a mile, but then we go lift, so.
Oh, do you, are you lifting? I didn't
Well,
know.
to my daughter.
I walked for like, 9,000, yeah, I'm still walking.
How long you walk, for an hour?
It just depends on the day, how much time I have.
Okay.
But I try to get it, before I go home, I try to get like 7,500 steps.
And how much that come out to?
You know what, I don't know. People
Because
keep
there's 6
asking
times
me.
around it's a mile.
Yeah, so right now I've walked 5.95 miles a day. So I'm trying to do 10,000 steps a day, but my feet can't take it right now. So I'm going like every other day. So 4 times a week.
You got good tennis shoes?
Yeah, it actually went out and bought the tennis shoes and I got the inserts. That's a lot of weight to put on. My trainer said, because he looked at my numbers on Facebook, and my trainer goes, Ray, those dogs haven't seen that much mileage for 30 years. They're gonna hurt for a while. So he told me to put like a water bottle and freeze it, and then put it on ice, and that helped. So that's been helping me out.
How long have you been doing this now?
2 months now. So I haven't really lost any weight, and people say that I look thinner, so things are kind of repositioning.
Stuff at work. I've been running for a while and stuff like that, never my board and stuff. We start off this thing, it's about getting healthy. It's not about losing weight.
Right.
They start to practice that if you do something for 30 minutes, any type of cardio,
That's what they say, 20 minutes, you really get a benefit from it.
and then if you drink at least 32 ounces of water, it's kind of a point system. We'll do it for a month, see how it's all going. Like I said, I don't want, I hate the concept of losing weight, because then people get the scares right away.
See, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to get a healthy shape.
Well, and see,
So I'm tracking when I'm walking and I'm tracking when I'm eating.
the weight will come off, and it'll stay off, because it's the way of life.
And that's what the 10,000 steps does. If you do that every single day, your body will automatically go to what it should
Now,
be.
who's your partner?
The girl who's in here today, she was, that was Karina Garcia, the executive director of the Aurora Family Commerce. So because I was the president for 8 years over there, she was picking my brain. So I pasted on Facebook and I go, nobody's joining me, nobody's joining me. She finally said, Ray, I need to lose 20 pounds. Can I join you? But she wants to lose 20 pounds by Friday.
Right.
Karina, it's not gonna happen. So there's people now starting to go, oh my God, he's really committed. Because I'm over there. And
See, that's all it takes is one person to
Right.
that's really committed to stuff.
So that's kind of what's going on. So there'll be different people that walk with me. But she just wanted to walk with me this week because, you know, she wanted to lose 20 pounds.
Wow. You see me tomorrow morning, I'll be with a coworker. The other one was my daughter.
Who was it today?
Today is my daughter.
Yeah, I thought that was your daughter.
Tomorrow I'll be with a coworker. She's starting this thing too, so.
Yeah, I'm not walking tomorrow because I got a presentation in the morning, but I'll go Friday.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Well, we say 5:30, we start by 5:30.
Okay, bye-bye.
So I can send her an email if you want.
Yeah, just remind me, or call Val, his name is Val, is the owner.
Oh,
You can call that number, and just let him know who you are. You know, that you're the president from over there and you want him to attend. He's a really nice guy. I really,
it was funny, I don't know, Saturday I went to the lady there, and, but I didn't know this on the dumpster, when we were deciding. That's new. So I was gone, when I went to pick her up, I was gone for a while. I can't, and I didn't know anything had happened. I didn't find out until 2 days ago what happened. My neighbor said, a lot of people went out of food. And I was like, huh? Now, when I came back with Jada, 2 copies, I said, did everybody get 2 copies? And I'm like, they working on the Saturday? This was in my door. 2 copies, so everybody can say, you know, make sure they got one. And so, I said, okay, and.
That's just a certification.
Yeah, she was telling me that a lot of people, she got one because her sticker was out. And, you know, she said she understood, she was like, well, I forgot, I moved and I got to know this, and, so anyway, because I came home and our kid, Justin, he said, Miss Whitney, why are you boobies? I'm like, because I got home, nothing happened. It wasn't no commotion or anything. And so. Oh, sir. So, yeah. So I was thinking, I ain't heard, I just heard a little bit from a few people. But I'm gonna get a person to come.
I have a question for you, Mr. Champion. I do. Someone was in here the other day asking about a Corian. Your little buddy Corian. And I said, you know, you should go ask Champion about him because Champion used to tutor him. I've heard he's back on the naughty list.
He likes smiling in 1960s.
You know, he's a
There were a lot of people who were those.
and when I met him.
I know.
Last year. And so he just one of the center. So the guy that my son said,
Mhm.
he wanted to follow him on to
We, it was
The next-
Don Johnson.
the
The principal at Johnson told Varela at the beginning of the school year,
Mhm.
he wanted to program dads in
They do a
school.
little bit of an outro.
Mm.
So I didn't get a call, so I didn't go. So now I can't go because I have
Right.
obligations, but the church is sponsoring that.
And then it kind of finished and ended, and I just
So
noticed.
was that off,
There were a lot of
so,
people.
or
Kids
was it
USA.
just sleep?
Kids USA. Our church sponsored
So what
it.
happens
Oh,
is,
okay.
they
So
they
they
just
have
shut
a
themselves off.
conference at the
Oh, okay.
So this like, once
next
it
month
comes
on
on,
the 21st.
Did I have to push the
But,
power button?
So
yeah,
it's over
and,
in
Oh.
the
and
top.
Karen, I was calling,
Left
see, I raised two.
Okay.
This, that's.
Oh, okay, you just slide it.
Yeah, once you turn it on, there's a little.
And, you know, if you respect me, I'm just.
Yeah, right, once I
Yeah.
started, I was good, but I was
Think you're
like,
gonna get
okay,
this.
it's not, I'm so used to
Yeah.
some other
Yeah.
devices, like
There's
when you
another
touch
kid
it.
over
It
there.
was, yeah.
No, these, no, when we got these, they were on sale, they were older, and had a model.
Yeah.
We probably just, we've had them out for 2 years, probably just due for an upgrade anyway. Well, that's my thing, we're just putting PDFs on, but, you know, it's funny, Commissioner Powell has to say, right, every time he's here, like, we start a meeting, he's going like this, and he can't get it over.
Yeah, it's I'm like,
Every meeting it happens.
I didn't know.
well, this time was fine, that's why I was like, this time.
What's TJ's mother name?
Ooh,
TJ Chris? Chris?
Chris,
Yeah, they moved her,
Miss
Missouri,
Brenda,
Oklahoma.
Gillespie,
Oh.
I miss them so much. They moved, she was the only parent that would be
She was
consistent with
involved.
me
Yeah.
in anything. Oh my God.
We're laughing, because it's like,
I don't know if she left us any forwarding information. Do you have contact information?
Through, I have, yeah, I mean, her number is
See, there you go.
and also through Facebook.
Email me.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want the numbers.
You wanna talk to see how the kids want to do?
Yeah.
They went up for Reddit recently,
Oh, really?
both of them, she had just posted, Amber and Chris.
anyway, before that.
Thank you for my name tag.
We got you on.
That was here before the first, my first meeting.
Good, all right, so see?
And that was, thank you.
Hey, see, you're official now, you can't go anywhere on it, you're stuck with us now.
Oh, yeah, you did the first motion of this year, you're good.
Hey, you're official now.
Yes.
Take care. Yeah, you too. Yes.